This is really a big question, and I don't have the answer. We don't have the answer. But we'll share with you which is the state of our reflections until now. You know that we are an organization, a think tank focused on public and social services and educational policies and reform. So maybe some of our insights are not really useful in very different subjects. But the fact is that we have talked about this a lot with other think tanks, and we have discovered that we really share problems, we share visions, we share even evolutions, even when they work, in very different fields. The start point is what we have been talking all these days. What if all these things not only are starting to happen, but what if all these things will increase and will be on our landscape for many years? What if social, political trust continues to decline? What if social consensus and conditions for change are unlikely? Can we be useful if this happens? What if fear of change in times of uncertainty blocks progress? What if complex policies too often fail when they have to be deployed? What if our recommendations never work on the field? What if evidence, expertise, and top-down lab proposals become unpopular? What if we are the problem, or our culture is the problem? What if our dream of speeding up progresses, we dream a lot in the foundation, with ideas, with just ideas, and the specific proposals is not really realistic? Or what if even equity policies become even more controversial? And as a think tank, we have to talk too often about who we are and why, what's our legitimacy, instead of talking about our ideas and the problems. And this is happening in many parts of the world, and this undermines the basic design or the basic original design of our institutions. In fact, my 10-year-old daughter can solve this easily. But I really get nervous when colors are not in the right side. And she can explain me that it's just an algorithmic. She tries to tell me how it works, but for me, it doesn't work. Someday I will learn to. But maybe I will solve this. Not that sure that I will solve the other issues we are talking now. Why? Well, because we are used to be effective through all the issues we have been talking these days: research, evidence-based, providing policy advice, reframing consensus, independent expertise, catalyzing changes, but from our role, not involving too much on policy, not in politics, publishing, communicating ideas, knowledge, top-down advocacy and impact. We are really strong with policymakers, decision makers, with experts, with traditional media, or giving general guidelines and telling people, well, then do it yourself. But we are not sure this works anymore, this works for everything, or this works enough. Although there are really many reasons to persist in this original model, because it still often works. For the foundation, it's the most cost-effective model we have. It really works, even if landscape has changed. But the problem is, it only works for some subjects and not for other complex subjects. And it often works in agenda setting, but it doesn't work that much when policies have to be deployed and have to sustain, when you are looking for a deeper and sustainable change. Another reason to persist in our model is that moving away from our original space is really risky. people respect you because they know your rules. Working with other rules maybe can make your legitimacy fail. It's another reason to don't change the model would be our resources are limited. When you expand, when you diversify user strategies, maybe you are becoming weaker in your own strengths. And there would be another reason. We have been dreaming in that for a long time. Why should we do other roles, even if they are necessary? Why don't we look for other organizations? Why don't we create coalitions with people that knows how to do these other things? The truth is that we dream in that, but we don't find that much people. When we find some organization, we say, oh, come here, please. I will marry you. But this doesn't happen really often. So we're still worried about our real impact. Sorry. In fact, the story I will tell you is about, we have made a strong change these years because we were used to be effective through these issues, and we have asked ourselves, we need new skills. Why? To be able to build and align open ecosystems for system change, we have to know how to nurture and empower engaged communities of change or leaderships. We have to promote living labs, multi-local living labs, if we want to demonstrate, if we want to learn. We have to scaffold change, co-create, design. This was not our main skill. This was not our culture, even. We have to engage citizens as part of these policies. We have to develop empathic narratives. We cannot be so cold. We cannot be so top down, so rational. And maybe we have to co-create models. This is risky because of this image in Spanish. In Spain, there's a sentences that say, maybe you are a perro verde. A perro verde is a green dog. Nobody likes a green dog. Main people don't, because you don't exactly know what's a green dog. Most of people like things that are what they were supposed to be. So becoming something, that's not easy to classify, who is playing out of your traditional and recognized field, can be really, really dangerous for you, even if it seems it's necessary. So you have to think twice about what to do. Well, I just to play a little bit, which could be the best option for a think tank? Well, just playing a little bit, then maybe the first option is persistent partner. So why don't you focus more and better on what you know how to do? Fight for your legitimacy and trust when you are attacked or when you are questioned, and work with other partners. That would be a good option. But for us here now, it's not enough. It's not realistic. We don't find those partners, and we cannot just persist and partner. The second would say, well, we can add new tools. We can have our business as usual, but get some plugins that give us some new powers when we need them, without transforming our model. That would be, less difficult, more conservative, but maybe we can drive the new landscapes as well. The third option is we have been moving slowly to this, is transform your model. Maybe a think tank in the 21st century has to be strong on evidence, has to provide policy advice, but at the same time has to be a good community builder, a co-creative change designer, and engager, and work on public and citizens and communities engagement. Well, we have talked these years with many think tanks, and it seems like for many of them, the trend should be the second or the third one. But we're not sure this is the future. So maybe the main trend, we don't know, I'm just playing, it's that most of think tanks will converge in evolving. They will need, it seems when you talk with people, you have really many things in common. It seems people is moving to there, but it's not that clear. Maybe the future is different. Maybe think tanks will diversify. Some of them will be really specialized on providing big evidence, evaluation, or recommendations. Others will work on the field, will be experts on engagement. Maybe we will become an ecosystem in which ones will use the others and will work with the others, and not each one of us will have to make all the roles, maybe. Or maybe there are other trends, who knows. But just to go to the example of organizations, we are a special kind of organization. We're an independent think tank based in Barcelona. It's easy for us because our main impact area is Catalonia, which is a small and easy lab. 8 million people, we know, we have strong links, we know the problems, we can learn fast in here. When we work in the rest of Spain, it's harder for us, but most of our efforts are here. We worked on educational challenges, which, it's the second budget of any state after health system. So many teachers, many schools. It's a big it's a big discussion. There's a big discussion about education at the policy level and at the family level and at the city level, at all levels. And we fund and develop innovative research, policy advice, but also what's going. It's the focus I'm going to bring this conversation: programs, coalitions, or ecosystems. In fact, we have evolved our theory of change, but I will go on this slide. We had to choose if we want to diversify our strategies, if we want to have a deeper impact, maybe we have to keep on working on our policy lab, research, data, and new agenda, but maybe we have to create a social hub. This is not only a building, this is a strategy of bringing other organizations together, not only learning together, but sharing agendas, sharing strengths, sharing communities. But we told ourselves we have to focus on 4 big challenges, not instead of the policy general lab. And we choose learning communities, out of school, local ecosystems, zero dropout, prevent early school leaving, schools of opportunity, changing underserved schools, and digital equity. Why these 4 challenges? Because we identified them as the most, as the main key challenges that can change inequalities in our country. But at the same time, each one of them is a system challenge. So it needed a deep approach. Just to put some examples, we had to build a mixed strategy for each one of these challenges. In some cases, leading living labs with learning agents, solutions, change makers. In some cases, providing strategic knowledge, data, research to these communities or these collective impact coalitions. In some cases, building capacity and leadership with training seminars for all these change makers, advocacy or campaigns. We had always made advocacy, but we are not that used to make public awareness big campaigns, talking to the individual citizen about our work or that challenge. Developing effective programs and models that could scale up, accelerate connections, and sustain change, or designing programs to promote citizen social engagement, to promote kind of empathy, to share that cause. That made us change our way to work with stakeholders. We not only manage a stakeholder, but tried to build communities. Of course, for example, city councils. They are our better friend by now. We have discovered that with mayors, with city councils, we can really go fast, and we can have a strong bottom-up strategy to the government in some issues that work with governments would be really slow and hard. With the schools, well, you need them if you want to test, if you want to, to open a new subject. Of course, NGO and universities, we know how to work with them, but communities of practitioners, business and tech clusters, activists and change makers, and designers and experts are really new for us. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we had never learned how to work, how to engage them, how to put them on our programs. This has been hard, and this has been really good. It doesn't mean it's a miracle, it's not easy, it doesn't work for everything, but it works. Well, so trying to close a little bit, what has worked to empower our communities and ecosystems? What have we learned? Well, we have to work even harder on theories of change. The better investment we have made in our theory of change, the best impact in this complex strategy. We have forced ourselves to create a shared vision in a 3-year shift milestone. In fact, we say 3, it can be 5. But to ourselves, we say, what's the shift, the realistic shift, even the difficult, but realistic shift that we can make in 3 years. If we don't find the theory of change for that realistic shift, we don't start work. We never start just trying what happens. Building open ecosystems, understanding the players' incentive for change. We're really proud about that. It was the most difficult, not only technical, but also cultural change of view for us, and this has worked a lot. Better pull than push strategies. This also is a change for us. When a collective impact approach is not possible, we love collective impact, but not in all the challenges is right now possible. Start with living labs or Oil-Stein strategies. For example, with city councils, with innovator community, this really works. They make the work for you if your value proposition is really good. Deliver tailored strategic research, and create common languages and tools to communities and change makers. This has been hard for us because we have to publish different kind of tools, of guides, it's a different language for us because we don't talk anymore or only to experts, to academics, to decision makers. We talk with people that want tools to deliver change or lead change in their city council, for example. Scaffolding change. Design drivers that can accelerate and sustain change. We work a lot in finding those drivers, but when we can design one, when we find a good one, it really works a lot and everything sustains much better. Engaging citizens in these cultural challenges and reframe these public policies and governance. It has worked. Well, it has worked. We have we have increased a lot impact in some subjects, in some issues, in some challenges that we even didn't dream we could do a few years ago. We have learned a lot, we have invested, and it seems that in many cases it has worked. But we have new problems. You can invest in communities, but communities don't do what you want when you want. So you have to invest in communities if they are really self-powered, but you never know which communities will really work stronger than you expected and which others. So you cannot only base your strategy in that. Building community often needs too much investments. It's not as much cost effective as data, research, policy advice. But in some challenges, it's the only way. Communities often may be focused on their priorities and incentives, and maybe equity, it's not their first one. You cannot tell people, work for me, you have to do whatever I would tell you, but do it by your own and do it quickly, please. This doesn't work. This isn't even a respectful way to talk to the others. But so you have to think a lot how to embed equity in the incentives of that community. And this isn't always easy. Well, the main problem for us, maybe if we were only focused on evidence and debates, we would be slower but safer. Maybe. We are impatient. We need, our society is complex, is slow, but we need fast impact. Or maybe not fast, but a certain, velocity of speed of impact. And maybe in these times, this cannot happen, maybe. We tried the other way, to be faster, to have a deeper impact, but sometimes we say, well, we have some resources in the traditional role, we have other resources in the new role, that works, but maybe all our resources in the traditional world would be, slower, but maybe would work. But we are not really sure. Original models, as I say, still work much better in some subjects, and all in some subjects, what we do with the other ones. That's the reason we have changed. And we are more focused on impact, but we have lost, in some cases, a global approach on some key subjects, and that is a problem. We are stronger on impact, our public utility has really increased, but we feel that we have lost, the 360 view. Well, we can do that again, but it's a little bit more difficult for us. Maybe our society needs more consensus, more dialogue. But are we really prepared to have less impact if we have more dialogue? Well, it seems reasonable. If you have a more dialogue, maybe there will be more consensus, and maybe there will be better conditions for change, and in the future, more impact. But are you sure this will happen? We cannot wait 15 years to see if this old strategy will work. It's too risky for us. So we mix one and another. Well, thank you. I think that we can share many insights, and if I have a little bit more time with Stefania, maybe I can talk a little bit more about how we change to one theory of change to the next one and why. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ismael. I'm sure that was a really good talk. I learned so much. Thank you so much for having us here so that we can have such important conversations. I think you started, or you touched on a thread that we've been speaking throughout the keynotes with Liliana and also with Trisha. This idea of, should we become the green dog that you were speaking about, or we should. And I think you've given us a way to think about, maybe in some instances we can mix and match and create our own hybrid dog in some senses, but you've also shown us with different communities how you've worked. And you had a very honest approach of, these were the challenges, here's what we lost in the process, but here's what we're trying. So I'm very curious to hear what people have to say about these ideas and these approaches that we've just discussed. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Do you have any reflections that you want to share? Does this message resonate with you? Does it feel like this is the tension that we're dealing with? And would you like to share a little bit about that? Oh, we have Vanessa, and then we have Goodwill. So maybe we'll go Vanessa, Goodwill.
Yes, thank you so much for such an inspiring sharing of your experience and knowledge. I would like to know whether you have had some reflections about what knowledge is within all these changes, like what would the role, because knowledge, I use knowledge on purpose, I'm not talking about evidence and research, and I think knowledge talks to including communities and other stakeholders in the way forward. But have you had any reflections or tensions that are related to the role and the weight of knowledge in that dialogue and in the process of stakeholder engagement?
Yeah, this is really a good question for us, and maybe for other fields also, but in our case, social policy, inclusion, education policy, it's really a key point. The point is, in the 20th century, social policies and education policies were easier for a think tank. You know, you have to build more schools, you have to put more teachers, you have to open the doors to women, to people from minorities. So, you know, the kind of proposals that can be ruled in a top-down approach by a government that can be measured, but it's you know, public spending, public investment, and you can well, but the right to education has changed. UNESCO said, okay, in the 20th century, the right of education was that everyone can go to a school and learn literacy and numeracy without exclusions. That was the right. In the 21st century, it's the right that every child has a relevant and learning, not only the right to be taught, but the right to learn, a relevant learning with, for the world and for his life. Well, this is a little bit more difficult to be provided. So, when we say we have to fix, for example, early school living, why 15% of children in Spain are school droppers? Well, it's not about only they don't have money. It's about guidance, it's about links, it's about also money, scholarships, but it's also about having second and a third opportunity. It's about empowering families with a new culture. Well, when you want to know which kind of knowledge, of policy knowledge, in fact, can lead to this new generation of policies, it's not only traditional compared policy, investment, and cost effective. You have to understand, you know, the people's voice. You have to understand teachers' culture. You have to understand, so there's another kind of knowledge. And this new generation of policies in the 21st century will not work if they don't embed this kind of knowledge. So we have to be kind of brokers of understanding these facts, working with people who understand all this, and translating this into policies, practices, and capacities for the public services. And the same that happens for school dropouts happens, for example, when we say the out-of-school education, beyond the schooling, must become a public policy. What does this mean? This doesn't mean the state will provide, as if it was a school, music, theater, or coding. This means it's leaving an ecosystem of providers, of family engagement, of reading, of libraries. This kind, if we don't understand, if we don't know how to not only work with the people who knows that, but translate it into drivers, into policy drivers, policy will fail, or key policies will fail in our century.
Thanks so much, and thanks, Vanessa, for that question. I think, Goodwill, you had a question.
Yes. No, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, this is really, very impressive and looks very, impactful. And I was very impressed when you talked about, the power of theories of change, that you've worked hard, to build your theories of change. I mean, I would be interested to just get more details in terms of, how you go about, building these theories of change and, really being part of the program, management system. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we really love theories of change because we have understood with time that when we invest a lot of time in them, when we suffer working on theories of change, after that, the world looks more clear. We understand our role, and we even understand what to measure and what's impact. When we haven't invested enough in that, we suffer a little bit, or we fail. Could I have again the presentation, because I would show a slide, please. I think that each one of our institutions has changed and evolved his theory of change, even when we are not, sure that happened. In our case, it has happened during many years. We were funded about 55 years ago, and at the beginning, the foundation, it was a dictatorship. There was a dictatorship in Spain, and the main work was bringing smart people to think together, publish information. The first lab on sociology in our country was created here. Then they paid for scholarships, so some of the best students here could study in European countries and bring new ideas. That was the theory of change during the dictatorship. It was really important, it was necessary, but it evolved, and before 2010, the foundation was leading 4 focus: social inequalities, democratic governance and participation, immigration policies, and education policy. And in 2010, it changed. There was, our board said, okay, we're living in these 4 areas, but our government and many universities are starting to work quite good in these areas. So maybe we have to pioneer. We don't have to be one more. And they said, if the 21st century is the knowledge society, maybe we should work on the same issues, but from knowledge, from education. So will we work on immigration policies? Yes, but we will not talk about who has papers, who not. We said people who has arrived here, has their sons need a good school path. They need to thrive in their education, and this will bring everything. We can work on democratic governance, but maybe your democratic culture is built from 0 to 25 years, and after that it's harder if you haven't learned, democratic experiences, dialogue and critical thinking to develop that. Well, that was hard, because it's never a good moment to close for areas in which you are a leader. But a few years later, we said, okay, we have to inspire, in 2010 we said, our first theory of change. We will inspire new policies for educational reform. So we monitor data, we gave evidence, we bring new horizons from other countries, so what the future would be like, and we created consensus and a community of change makers from policy and decision makers. A few years ago, later, we said, okay, we have worked on that. The underground is quite good, but it's not enough. We have to empower a committed strategy of system transformation. We cannot be all the life working on created conditions and inspiring conditions. We have reached that a little bit, not enough. So we worked on system transformation. And a few years later, in fact 2 years ago, we said we have to focus on high impact for equity, because system transformation is working. Even if we work more on that, we won't accelerate it. Society has to work on their own path, and maybe we have to invest in these key points. This has been successful for us, but this is also a problem. These changes are full of problems. For example, before 2010, we thought that universities and governments will have good immigration policies, because it seemed like, or good democratic governance and participation. And we don't work anymore on that, and this hasn't happened. So you leave, some interesting things have happened, but not enough. We have big problem on that. For example, we are focused now on innovation for equity, but who is working as hard as we used to work on creating big consensus on system transformation, not only on equity? Nobody. So theories of change, are your future, and you need them, but you leave some fields, and sometimes this is also a problem.
Thanks so much, Ismael. I think we've learned a lot with this, and thank you, Goodwill, for making sure that we could get to this part. Unfortunately, that's the time that we have for questions, but I'm sure that this has given us a really great way to start the conversations and the sessions for today. So thank you so much again.